The smell of fresh-cut grass lingers in the air as I pull my RV into my driveway, the engine humming softly before I kill the ignition. It's a Friday afternoon, the sun dipping low, casting a golden glow over the cul-de-sac. My house, a modest but well-kept single-story, sits at the edge of a pristine, HOA-controlled neighborhood. Too pristine, maybe. I step out, stretching my arms. The neighborhood is quiet, too quiet. Mr. Henderson, my elderly black neighbor, gives me a wary nod from his porch, rocking back and forth, his eyes darting to the house across the street. Karen's house. She stands there, arms crossed, a permanent scowl etched into her surgically taut face. She's the HOA president, self-appointed guardian of neighborhood integrity. And by that, I mean she polices every blade of grass, every parked car, and, apparently, every person of color who doesn't belong. I belong. I've lived here for 3 years, paid my dues, followed the rules. But to Karen? I'm always one step away from bringing down property values. Her eyes lock onto my RV, the same one I've parked here a dozen times before. I see her lips purse, her fingers tightening around the clipboard she's never seen without. A slow breath. I know what's coming. Marcus, she calls out, her voice dripping with fake concern. I wasn't aware we allowed commercial vehicles in residential driveways. I smile, keeping my voice light. Good thing this isn't a commercial vehicle then, huh? Her eyes narrow. She hates when I don't take her bait. This contraption, she waves a manicure hand at my RV, is an eyesore. We have standards, you know. I know, I say, walking toward my front door. And I also know HOA rules allow RVs for up to 72 hours in a private driveway. She scoffs. That's meant for residents returning from vacation, not people who... She stops, eyes flicking toward my dark skin before she corrects herself. Not people who abuse the system. I grip the doorknob, forcing myself to stay calm. She's trying to push me, trying to get me to argue, to make a scene. Not today. Have a great weekend, Karen. I step inside, shutting the door behind me. But through the blinds, I see her standing there, staring at my RV like it's a personal insult. Her face is tight with something more than frustration. It's calculation. I don't know it yet, but this is just the beginning. Saturday morning. The sun spills golden light across the neighborhood, the air crisp with a scent of dew-covered grass. I step outside, coffee in hand, expecting the usual peace of the weekend. Instead, an empty driveway greets me. My RV is gone. I blink, setting my coffee down on the porch railing. My heart kicks up. I know where I parked it. I know I locked it. And yet it's not there. I scan the street. Nothing. No sign of forced entry. No shattered glass. Just an empty patch of concrete where my vehicle should be. A slow, sinking feeling creeps into my gut. I turn, eyes landing on Karen's house. Her blinds shift, just barely. She's watching. I walk across the street, my steps measured, my pulse pounding. Before I can even knock, the door swings open. Karen stands there, wrapped in a silk robe, cradling a steaming cup of herbal tea. Her expression is a picture of feigned surprise. Marcus, she coos, her voice dripping with artificial sympathy. Is something wrong? You tell me, I say, keeping my voice steady. My RV is missing. Her lips twitch, almost like she's suppressing a smirk.
Oh dear.
That's just awful. She takes a slow sip of her tea. You know, I did warn you about leaving that eyesore out in the open. I stare at her. My gut tells me she knows something, but she's careful. Too careful. She won't admit anything outright. Did you see anything? I ask. She tilts her head. Well, as HOA president, I do have a duty to maintain the aesthetic integrity of the neighborhood. And I may have noticed a tow truck late last night. A tow truck. My jaw clenches. Who called it? Her smile doesn't waver. I can't say for sure, of course. But if a concerned neighbor filed a complaint about an illegally parked vehicle, well, the HOA has certain protocols. She's lying. I know the rules, and my RV wasn't breaking any of them. But she's acting like she's untouchable, like this is just another game she's playing. I exhale slowly. All right, I say. I'll find out who took it. Oh, I'm sure it'll turn up. She places a hand on her chest, voice honeyed with false concern. I do hope it wasn't towed somewhere unsavory. I don't respond. I just turn and walk away. But my hands are shaking because something is wrong. And deep down, I know Karen isn't just involved. She's behind it. I don't waste time. I head straight to the HOA office, a small brick building nestled between a real estate agency and a Pilates studio. It's supposed to be closed on weekends, but when I push the door open, I find none other than Karen sitting behind the desk, tapping away on her laptop like she owns the place. Because in a way, she does. Her eyes flick up, a slow smile stretching across her face. Marcus, she says, feigning surprise. I didn't expect to see you here. I step forward, arms crossed. Cut the act. Where's my RV? She leans back in her chair, lacing her fingers together. Like I said, I'm not responsible for your poor parking choices. But if you're looking for information, I suggest checking with the towing company. She slides a business card across the desk. Evergreen Towing and Impound. I snatch it up. This was illegal and you know it. She sighs, shaking her head like she's dealing with an unruly child. Marcus, let's be reasonable. HOA rules exist for a reason. We can't just let people park whatever they want in their driveways. I mean, this isn't, well, you know what I mean. Oh, I know exactly what she means. I turn on my heel and leave before I say something that'll give her the satisfaction of calling security. Evergreen Towing sits on the outskirts of town, a rusted chain-link fence wrapped around a lot full of battered cars and trucks. I approach the front desk, where a stocky white man with a beer gut barely glances up from his magazine. Help you, he grunts. I'm looking for my RV. It was taken from my driveway last night. I slide the business card across the counter. He frowns, flipping through a clipboard. What's the make? I tell him. He runs a hand over his stubbled chin, then shrugs. Nope. Nothing like that came in. I stiffen. Karen Mitchell, HOA president, said your company towed it. At her name, something changes. His shoulders tighten, and he suddenly won't meet my eyes. If it ain't in the lot, it ain't here. You sure about that? I press. Because if it was taken illegally, that's theft. And I will be pressing charges. His fingers drum against the desk. Look, buddy. Not your buddy, I snap. A long pause. Then, under his breath, check Mitchell's place. I freeze.
He knows something.
I step back, heart hammering. Karen didn't just tow my RV. She took it. Back in the neighborhood, I stop by Mr. Henderson's house. He's sitting on his porch, sipping sweet tea, eyes watchful. When I explain the situation, his jaw tightens. She took it, he mutters. Knew she was up to something. I need proof. He nods, then jerks his thumb toward his house. Cameras. Been recording since the 90s. Let's see what they caught. We head inside, where he pulls up last night's footage. Grainy black and white images flicker across the screen. 11:47 p.m., a tow truck rolls onto my driveway. 11:50 p.m., two men step out, unhook the RV. But they don't tow it away. They drive it. 11:55 p.m., Karen stands on her porch, watching, arms crossed. Smirking. I suck in a breath.
She stole it.
Mr. Henderson whistles low. She's bold. She's caught. I copy the footage onto a USB. This isn't just an HOA issue anymore. This is Grand Theft Auto. I dial the police. Time to put an end to this. I don't bother calling Karen. I want to see her face when this all comes crashing down. By the time I pull up to her house, two squad cars are already there. Their blue and red lights strobe against the pristine beige walls of her McMansion. Officers Murphy and Patel stand near their patrol car, watching Karen argue with a third officer. She's in full performance mode, hands on her hips, voice dripping with exasperation. This is ridiculous. I am the HOA president. I have every right to remove unauthorized vehicles from my neighborhood. I step out of my car, tucking the USB into my pocket. Where's my RV, Karen? She whirls on me, her mask of calm cracking just slightly. Oh, please, Marcus. You're really wasting taxpayer dollars over this? I already told you. It was an eyesore. Officer Patel steps forward. Ma'am, the problem isn't that the vehicle was towed. The problem is that it was driven away and never reported to any impound lot. Karen's face twitches, but she regains her composure. Well, obviously, there was a mix-up. She turns back to me smug. Perhaps if you hadn't left that thing out in the open, none of this would have happened. I step closer, lowering my voice just enough. Where
Is my
RV? Her smirk deepens. I don't know. She shrugs. Maybe it was stolen. A slow exhale. She thinks she's won. She thinks she can gaslight her way out of this. I pull the USB from my pocket and hand it to Officer Murphy. Check the footage. Karen's expression flickers, just for a second. But I see it. She knows. Murphy plugs the USB into the squad car's laptop. The screen illuminates with the grainy footage from Mr. Henderson's cameras. The officers lean in, watching. 11:47 p.m., a tow truck rolls up. 11:50 p.m., two men unhook my RV. 11:55 p.m., Karen stands on her porch, watching. Then, clear as day, one of the men steps out, removes his cap, and shakes Karen's hand. The color drains from her face. Murphy turns to her. Ma'am, care to explain why these men, who were supposedly towing an illegally parked vehicle, instead drove it away under your supervision? Karen stammers, her bravado slipping. This is clearly a misunderstanding. Where's the RV, Karen? I ask again, voice calm. Her jaw tightens. She's cornered, but she's not going down without a fight. This is harassment. You're taking his word over mine? She gestures wildly at me, then lowers her voice, slipping into the role of the frightened white woman. You know how these people are, always playing the victim. Murphy doesn't even let her finish. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to stop talking. He turns to Patel. Call it in. Grand Theft Auto. Karen gasps. You can't be serious. Patel ignores her, already speaking into his radio. Karen whips back to me, eyes blazing. You don't belong here, she spits, voice shaking. I smile. I do. And after tonight, you won't. Karen's breathing turns shallow, her carefully curated mask of superiority cracking like thin ice. Her eyes dart between the officers, her driveway, and the small but growing crowd of neighbors who have gathered to watch. She forces a laugh, high and brittle. This is absurd. Grand Theft Auto? Don't be ridiculous. It was just a misunderstanding. A clerical error, at best. Officer Patel doesn't look up from his radio. Dispatch, we have a suspect involved in a stolen vehicle case. Karen's composure shatters. Stolen? You're seriously going to arrest me over a damn RV? She turns to Officer Murphy, the older of the two cops, trying to appeal to his authority. You know me. I'm the HOA president. I protect this neighborhood. Murphy folds his arms. Protect it from what, exactly? Karen opens her mouth, then closes it. She realizes, too late, that anything she says will only make things worse. I step forward. Where's my RV, Karen? She's still trying to keep her head above water, desperate to maintain her grip on power. I don't know. Maybe those men took it somewhere else. Maybe they sold it. I had nothing to do with it after they left. Officer Murphy turns the laptop screen toward her. He rewinds the footage to the final moments. 12:07 a.m., Karen steps off her porch and walks toward the RV. 12:09 a.m., she climbs inside. 12:12 a.m., the RV's headlights flick on. 12:13 a.m., it drives away. Silence. Karen's mouth drops open. The crowd murmurs, whispers turning into sharp gasps. Someone even lets out a low whistle. Mr. Henderson, standing near the edge of the driveway, shakes his head. Now that's a damn shame. Karen sways slightly, as if the ground beneath her has become unstable. I was just moving it out of the way, she sputters. I didn't steal it. I was keeping it safe. Murphy taps the screen. You drove away in a vehicle you don't own, with no intention of returning it. That's grand theft auto. I have a right. No, Karen. I cut in, stepping closer. You had privilege, and you thought it would protect you. But not tonight. For the first time since I met her, she looks truly afraid. Her fingers tremble as she grips the hem of her silk robe. This is a setup. You're all ganging up on me. This is because She stops herself before she says the quiet part out loud. Too late. The officers exchange glances. The crowd watches, eyes narrowing in realization. Karen has always hidden behind rules, policies, and coded language.
But now?
Now, she's out in the open, and there's no escape. Suddenly, a fourth vehicle pulls up, a sleek black SUV with tinted windows. The doors swing open, and two men in dark suits step out. They move with quiet authority, scanning the scene before one of them, a black man with graying temples, steps forward. "Mr. Williams?" he asks, looking at me. I nod. "Yeah." He extends a hand. "Agent Carter, FBI." Karen makes a strangled sound. The crowd falls silent. Murphy straightens. FBI." Agent Carter pulls out a badge, flipping it open for the officers to see. "That's correct. Mr. Williams here works with us. That RV." He gestures toward the laptop screen, where the last frame of footage still shows my vehicle disappearing into the night. That was a fully equipped mobile command center. Karen lets out a wheeze.
What?
Carter continues, his voice calm but firm. Inside that vehicle were classified case files, surveillance equipment, and federal property. You didn't just steal an RV, Mrs. Mitchell. You interfered in a federal investigation. Karen's legs buckle. She reaches out blindly, as if hoping anyone, will support her. But the neighbors she ruled over with an iron fist only step back. Murphy clears his throat. That changes things. He looks at Karen, eyes unreadable. "Ma'am, you're under arrest." Karen snaps out of her daze.
No.
"You can't." Patel steps in, pulling her hands behind her back as Murphy starts reading her rights. The moment the cuffs click into place, something inside Karen breaks. "This is my neighborhood," she shrieks, twisting in Patel's grip. "You think you can just do this to me? I built this place. I make the rules. I cross my arms. Not anymore." She turns her eyes on me, pure hatred swimming behind them. "You set me up," she hisses. "You planned this." I shake my head.
No, Karen.
"You did this to yourself." Agent Carter steps beside me, watching as Karen is escorted to the squad car. "We recovered the RV about an hour ago," he tells me. "Still intact. No major damage." I exhale, tension finally loosening in my chest. Good. Karen is still screaming, still fighting, but the weight of reality is settling in. As she's shoved into the back of the squad car, she catches sight of her neighbors, watching her fall from grace. No one looks away. No one defends her. And that, I think, is what finally silences her. The next morning, Karen Mitchell's mugshot is all over the local news. The headline reads, "HOA President Arrested for Grand Theft Auto, Stole FBI Command Center." It plays on repeat. Every news channel. Every social media platform. By noon, her name is trending. Karen Mitchell, the HOA president who went too far. Her pristine reputation?
Gone.
Her carefully curated image? Shattered. The footage from Mr. Henderson's cameras spreads like wildfire. She can't spin this. Can't talk her way out of it. She is exactly what she always accused others of being, a criminal. And everyone sees it. By the time I step outside, the neighborhood is different. The air feels lighter. The tension that clung to these streets like fog has lifted. Neighbors who once ignored me, who once whispered behind their hands, now nod as I walk by. Some even offer small, hesitant smiles. I see Mrs. Patel, the woman who had sided with Karen on every HOA vote, shaking her head at the news. Mr. Dunham, who once called my RV a blight on the community, now mutters, "Damn shame. We let her get away with too much. Too little, Too late. But I'll take it. Mr. Henderson waves me over. He's sitting on his porch, watching the chaos unfold on his TV. Guess we finally got our justice, huh? I nod. Took long enough. He chuckles, sipping his sweet tea. People like her always think they're untouchable. Until they're not. Karen's fall doesn't stop at her arrest. The HOA board meets the next evening. Without her, they vote unanimously to strip her of her position. By the end of the week, the board announces they'll be dismantling several of Karen's policies, including the one banning RVs. By the end of the month, Karen's house is on the market. Word is, her husband's law firm dropped her as a client. She's drowning in legal fees. By the end of the year, she's just a bad memory. And me? My RV is back where it belongs, right in my damn driveway. I sit inside it that evening, staring at the control panels, the screens, the equipment that almost fell into the wrong hands. Agent Carter had given me a firm handshake before he left. You handled yourself well, Williams. We need more people like you in this job. I don't do this job for recognition. But hearing that, it meant something. I take a deep breath, exhaling slowly. The neighborhood is quiet, peaceful. For the first time in a long time, it actually feels like home.